What's up guys, I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Today I'm going to show you how to install a Tusk Stage 2 Upgrade Kit on your Polaris General XP 1000. The Stage 2 kit is an easy way to get some of the most popular accessories for protection and comfort installed on your brand new machine. Now what this kit comes with is your removable full windshield. You have the pivot folding mirrors with A-pillar mounts, a Polycarb rear window, and a cargo rack. Now all of this stuff is pretty simple to install, so let me show you how. Now we're ready to install the A-pillar mirror mounts. So to do that, we're going to take our 15mm socket and we're going to remove both of these bolts in the A-pillar. Now keep in mind that nut on the back side, we're going to reuse it. You don't want to lose it, so you can either use a magnet to hold onto it or you can stuff a rag behind there so it doesn't drop down into the cab. Now for the mirror mounts, we have a right and a left side. We're going to start on the left side or driver's side. And you'll know this is in the correct position if these two mounting holes, they're lower than the mirror mounting hole. And then this bracket should just wrap around and parallel the side of the cab. Now to install it, we have the two longer bolts that came with them. And again, we are reusing that nylock nut on the back side. And we'll put the top bolt in. Then we can use our 17mm socket to tighten these down. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now to install the mirrors, we're going to use a 13mm wrench to remove this bolt from the end and tighten it. Now when you take this out, keep in mind you want to keep track of that star washer. This is going to go between the mount and the mirror. Stick the bolt through the back side of the mount and thread it into the mirror. Then make your adjustments and tighten it down. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now that mirror mounting bolt is a pretty tight fit, and depending on where this bracket is when you tighten up the A-pillar bolts, it might be a little too tight to get in there. So if you're having a hard time, just loosen these back up and then thread that mounting bolt for the mirror in. Right here we have our removable full windshield, and to get this ready, what we're going to do, number one, there's only one side you're going to see this Tusk logo. So for right now, we're going to have that facing up, and we're going to remove this protective film. Now a couple of things I want to note with this is we have a blanket laid out. That way we don't scratch this up, and I'm also wearing some rubber gloves, and that way I don't get fingerprints all over it. So from here, what we need to do is start installing some seals. So we've got the D-shaped trim. This is going to go across the top. So I'm going to remove that backing. So I'm going to start at the bottom of this angle and then just apply this all the way across the top. And if you have any extra left over, we're just going to cut that off with some scissors. Next, we're going to apply some foam tape to these outside edges. So we're just going to cut that to length. It's going to be on the outside of the slots is where this goes. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and flip this windshield over. We're going to remove that protective film. The last thing we need to do is install the bulb sill. So this bulb, it's going to be facing towards the inside of the cab. So as it sits right now, the bulb is going to be facing down, and this should fit snug all the way across the bottom. If it doesn't, at any point you can simply pinch this together for a tighter fit. And as you can see, we're just starting right after this little cutout, right on the edge right there. So as you can see, we have a little bit of extra length right here. So we're just going to use some side cutters to cut that off. Now over at the machine, we need to install our barrel nuts onto these two tabs on the stock visor. Next, we need to attach both of the supplied brackets to the barrel nut. So one thing I want to point out about orientation is that threaded insert. The flat side is going to be facing out towards the windshield, and then we'll take the supplied bolts and thread them into that barrel nut. And we'll leave these just loose enough so we can make some adjustments, and we'll do the same thing to the other side. Next, we'll set the windshield in place. And I'm going to start by installing the two knobs in the top. After that, we can install the Velcro clamps. So what we're going to do is take the Velcro strap, go around the back of the A-pillar. We're going to go through this slot in the windshield, feed that strap right through the bar in the clamp. Then we'll wrap it back around. We'll set the clamp into place. Then you can make your adjustments and then tighten down that Velcro strap. We'll do that same process for the remaining 3 Velcro clamps. Once you have everything lined up where you want it, you can go ahead and snug down the knobs and tighten those bolts going into the barrel nuts. To get the Polycarb rear window and the filler panel ready, we need to apply some foam tape to these pieces. Now there's 2 rolls of foam tape. You've got the thin stuff and the thicker stuff. The thicker stuff is going to go on the Polycarb rear window, thin stuff on the filler panel. Now with the filler panel, you have 2 bends. So we have those both facing up right now. And on one of these bends, you've got slots. So we're going to apply the foam tape to the opposite side, as well as these 2 edges on the end. So we'll apply the thinner foam tape along the sides. We'll cut it to length. Now we need to flip the filler panel over. And again, we're going to use that thin foam tape across the bottom right here on this outside edge. Now for the rear window, we're going to remove the protective film, but before we do that, pay attention. We have this Tusk logo that is facing up right now. Now we can take the thicker foam tape. We're going to go all the way around the perimeter of this side that is facing up right now. Just keep in mind, you want to stay about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and you want to avoid from covering up these mounting holes. Now we can flip the window over and remove the adhesive backing from the outside. Now over at the machine, we need to remove both of the rear seats. Next, we're going to set the filler panel into place. We've got the 3 sides with the foam tape. That's going to seal against the back of this roll cage. And then the side with the 5 holes, that's going to be facing down. And before I set this into place, you'll notice there's 2 pre-drilled holes in these gussets. So the reason I mention that is we're going to install some of these self-tappers into each of those holes. We're just going to use a T40 Torx bit and our ratchet to tighten that down. And we're going to leave it loose enough we can make some adjustments. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. And then for the middle section, we have the filler panel bracket with the 2 threaded inserts that's going to go on the inside. And then again, 2 self tappers are going to go to that. With all the hardware loosely installed, you want to adjust the filler panel for optimal fitment. So I'm going to press down on it to make sure we have a good seal across the bottom. And we'll go ahead and tighten the bolts in the corners first and then the middle. The next step, we need to stuff a rag between the filler panel and the cargo bed, and that way once we rivet the inside of this filler panel, the cargo bed won't hit the panel when we open and close it. Now we can take the supplied 21/64 inch drill bit and we're going to drill out this middle hole. Once you've done that, you want to install one of these push rivets, and to get this to go all the way in, you're going to have to press down so the metal surface is flush with the plastic. Then we can do those same steps for the remaining 4 holes across the bottom of the filler panel. Next, we can set the rear window into place, and we've got the same thing going on here. We've got the self tappers in the upper corners on both sides, so I'm going to loosely install those first, and then we can install the remaining brackets. Now for these self tappers, if you're having trouble getting these started, you can either run the self tapper through first and create the threads, or have somebody hold the rear window in place while you do that. Next, we need to install the brackets onto the rear window. So the 3 wider ones, they're going to go across the bottom. Again, we've got these self tappers. They're going to go right in there. Then we're going to finish with the narrow bracket on top. Now that we have everything loosely installed, we're going to adjust this from top to bottom and side to side to get the best adjustment on it. And then we're going to lightly tighten down the hardware. If you go too tight, you're going to damage the rear window. So don't do that. Just lightly snug these down. After that, we can reinstall the seats. Next, we have the bed-mounted cargo rack. So we need to do some pre-assembly before we set this on the machine. First thing we're going to do is attach the sides. So this taller end in the front, that's going to be towards the front of the machine. And then for the sides, we actually have a taper right here, and that's going to go towards the back of the machine. So that's going to go back, and then the bracket is going to have that L shape. The L is going to face away from this rack. Then we're going to take 6 of these M8 by 20 millimeter bolts, and we're going to loosely install these in the 3 mounting locations. And we'll do the same thing on the right side. Now we need to attach the right and left support gussets. These are different from side to side. So how you tell you have the correct orientation is you'll have the 3 dots towards the top, and then the bottom mounting location, that's going to be slightly more forward than the top mounting location. And again, we're going to use the M8 by 20 millimeter bolts and loosely install those. Now we're going to flip the rack upside down. Now we're going to attach our 4 spacers in each of the 4 corners in those mounting locations. So we're going to take one of these longer bolts, install one of these smaller washers onto it, go through the side, install the spacer. You've got one more washer, and then you've got a nylock nut. We can go ahead and tighten these down as we put them on. With the rack prepped, we're ready to go over to the machine. Next, we'll bring the cargo rack over to the machine, and those plastic spacers, we're going to make sure that all 4 of them go into the end slots on the sides of the cargo bed. After that, you're going to want to tip the cargo bed back. Then we need to remove both plastic panels on each side of the cargo bed. So some of these, they're going to have this quick clip. You just twist it, pull that out. But on other machines, you might have a screw going in there that's going to take a T40 Torx bit. So once you have that removed, you can pull out on the side of the plastic and get that out of the way. To attach the cargo rack to the bed, we need to install this fender washer and nylock nut onto the end of this bolt going all the way through our plastic spacer. That's going to be in all 4 corners. And this is kind of hard to see, but in the back mounting locations, you're going to go through this slot. We're just going to install them by hand for now. Once you've done those same steps for all 4 mounting locations, you can take your 9/16 inch combo wrench and a 1/4 inch drive 9/16 inch socket and tighten that nut down. And I do want to mention, when you tighten this hardware down, you don't want to over tighten it. With all the hardware tight, we can go ahead and reinstall the side panels. After that, you want to close the cargo bed, and the final step is to remove the button head bolts that we previously installed one by one. And what we're going to do when we take them out is apply some of the supplied Loctite to them and then do the final tightening. And that's all there is to installing the Tusk Stage 2 Upgrade Kit on your Polaris General XP 1000. Now, if you have any questions about the install process, leave those down in the comments below. And if you need to pick one of these kits up, they're available on our website. So check that out and subscribe to our channel for more helpful content. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.